I'm all right. What about yourself?
I'm good. Thanks for
Good.
taking the time.
No, hey man, I appreciate you taking the time. I mean, when I get a comedian I know, I'm like, hey, all right, they got valuable things to do. Why are they talking to me?
Well, I got a hour carved out from the kids are with my wife. We're great. I'm happy to talk to anybody in this situation.
You're in Denver, right?
I am, yeah. I'm in
Okay.
Denver.
That's I think that's one of the biggest things. I'm a fan from Never Not Funny. That's where I first heard you from. And so I retain like small things obviously
Sure.
about people you hear, and I when hearing that you were Denver based really stuck out to me because then that made me think, oh, the comedy scene there must be huge.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's growing all the time, but like we have this one club, Comedy Works, that's this crown jewel of a club. So it doesn't hurt that every comic, comes through that club. So
Mm.
we have this a really, I would say, top five comedy club right in our backyard, and that's my home club. That's helped a lot. But now there's a big thriving indie scene, and
Mhm.
it's good, man. It punches above its weight for what you would think comedically. Like it's a really strong scene.
Is it tough telling jokes that high above sea level?
I've been altitude training my whole life. It's no problem.
You gotta I box with an altitude mask, so I get it. I understand.
How's an altitude mask work? It just like
It,
deprives you of oxygen?
yeah, it's like it's the same thing that Bane wore in Dark Knight
Sure.
Rises.
Sure.
And it just, you just turn it, you turn the switches on, you can turn it as restricted as you want, and it
Whoa.
makes your body basically ask for more air and you can't give it to it. So you have to go, all right, this is what you're going to get. And this is all you're going to get.
You're gonna have like, safe words with yourself where you're just like, I'm tapping out. Like I can't go any further.
Yeah, it's so often that when I end a round, I flip the thing open and I go, this is what air feels like. Why do I deprive myself of this?
Yeah, it's pretty great. I was born here. I don't have any choice. It's just how it is.
Yeah, well, how is it like leaving home and then traveling to all these different places? I mean, obviously it's the same thing for LA and New York and Chicago comics, but when you come back home, what do you take away from Kansas and Iowa and all these other or crappy states that probably don't have as thriving of scenes?
I mean, the same thing any comedian would. It's just like you get your road stories and that's the best part about being a comic is traveling and seeing parts. I would never have seen as much of the United States as I've seen if I
Mhm.
wasn't a stand-up comedian. I've been, you just wind up all over the place and it's cool. It helps.
Oh,
I've never obviously it's like it's quick to tell horror stories, but I've always enjoyed the small cities.
what has been like a state or a city that really just took you by surprise for
That's
anything,
good.
like, even if it's food?
Hmm. Lately, I'm high on Milwaukee. Isn't that weird? You just like
Yeah,
get these cities that honestly, comics are so transparent. If people show up to see me in numbers, then I like the place. Like it doesn't
yeah.
matter. It could be a horrible, roadside stall, but if there's 100 people there that want to see me, I love it. Um, but Milwaukee's cool, but just because it's it lives in the kind of shadow of Chicago. It's got a great food scene. It's got all these old sort of German, hot dogs and beer and sausages. And it's just I've always enjoyed Wisconsin generally. Portland, Oregon's a big fave too, but that's no surprise.
Oh yeah, I have a friend who is a reporter in Portland, and we were just talking today, and she likes it up there. She really loves it. She loves the like, especially doing outdoor stuff.
I'm a nerd. I always look at air quality. I don't know why. You got the app on your phone.
Yeah,
And I was just in Portland and I was like, I haven't checked Portland's air quality. It's phenomenal.
yeah.
Every time I've been to Portland, I've realized they've got great air. So that might be something. You should go train in Portland. You'd kick ass.
I'll try that next. I like doing the speaking of apps, I like doing Zillow in different places and
Oh
that I
yeah.
would probably never live and like not even looking for the most expensive or the cheapest, just looking for something like in the median where you would go, oh, okay, maybe I'll check that place out.
It's crazy how invasive you can get. My wife is a Zillow head as well.
Mhm.
And so we'll just be driving and she sees a home and suddenly we're in that home and we know what it costs and the last time it was sold. And she does that all the time. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool, but it's pretty weird. 20 years ago, that was not anything even, you have to wait for it to go on sale, go to the open house if you're curious about it. But
yeah.
now you can just go into any home you want.
And just knock on someone's door and go, hey, I know this is worth 600,000 and you bought it for 400,000, back
Here's a
10
bag
years
of
ago.
cash. Let's do this right now. We don't need realtors. We got this.
It's insane. Tell me about Wallpaper. I'm reading right now.
Sure.
It is it's your what, sixth release, but your first video one?
Yeah, so I've been doing comedy almost 20 years, which is crazy. And I've done a number of albums, but the longest thing I've ever done was a Comedy Central half hour
Mhm.
that was, video. And
Yeah.
so this is my first full hour that's filmed and big 3 camera shoot. And, it's kind of wild that it's taken this long to have this for myself. But yeah, it's the first hour long thing I've ever done. And I'm real proud of it.
Well, yeah, it's strange that it's taken this long, but also it probably came at the right time. I mean, imagine if I've spoken to comedians who they're within the first 3 years they're doing comedy, they put out a special, and I think you're not ready. But
Yeah,
it's
for
something
sure.
like that.
For
So,
sure.
but for you, I mean, this still is a triumph for really like anybody too.
Yeah, it's a big deal to put some out like this. It's an ambitious thing and it's fun to have, a big crew come and believe in your vision and help you execute it. So I think it's the right time for it and I'm really proud of it. Part of like this Denver existence is kind of with me it's always been just like if you have an hour and it's good, you work on the hour, you put
Mhm.
the hour out. And then you get to the next hour, put the hour out. It's just kind of this like worker ethic to comedy that I've always had. So I'm always got the next album in mind, got the next album in mind. And I guess I never really cared whether it was shot or on a streamer or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like, well, if people aren't doing that, then I'm still doing my thing. So I've always just kind of operated that way. And it was fortunate that 800 Pound Gorilla was like, yeah, let's do it right when I was ready to do it. And it worked out great.
Yeah, I really like 800 Pound Gorilla. They do a lot of great work with a lot of great comedians. What was the hardest part during production, like production wise, of putting this all together?
I want to echo what you said. I feel like they're tastemakers. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like in comedy right now, the streamers are what they are, and there's certainly good people getting on there, but it's also sort of like I feel like they're not breaking new people the
right.
way that the 800 Pound Gorillas and even just YouTube are. Like
Mhm.
if you're more of a indie comedy nerd or a big connoisseur, you're gonna find more things going that route than you are just popping on Netflix or whatever. But
Mhm.
anyway, that's my high horse. The biggest challenge shooting was like so there's this great theater in Denver called the Bug Theater, and I do a monthly show there with my friends, and it's just where I feel at home.
Mhm.
And it's a 110-year-old, 200-seater old Nickelodeon. So there hadn't been a lot of big shoots in there, and they had to sort of find a way to cram all that equipment into the theater. And this
Whoa.
guy Alex, who runs it, who's my buddy, he was removing rows of chairs for us, and it's really sort of just wedging in as many cameras and lights as we could into this tiny space. But it looks great, and I said I wanted it to look warts and all. I don't want it to look like behold this stage. I want you to feel like you're in a
Yeah.
sort of gloriously run down old little theater.
I know that higher ceilings make for the laughs disappear up there. What were
Yes.
you what like did you ever want to put a lot of those seats back that they took out and said let's try to get more people laughing there?
The weirdest part was this curtain, right? So the stage is huge, huge. And because they do proper plays there, they need like depth of
Okay.
space.
Yeah.
And there's a big red curtain in the back. And, it just looks like a classic old theater curtain.
Mhm.
But because there was so much space, we had to reproduce that 20 feet forward. So we had to order this like old curtain, put up pipes and just string it. So we cut the stage in half. Otherwise, I would have just been like lost back there. Um, but it's so funny, like the artifice of things. It was like a big expense. Got to
Yeah.
import this curtain, got to mount this curtain. Now suddenly there's 5 guys whose job it's the curtain is like, this is hilarious for a bunch of
You,
dick jokes.
Yeah, you didn't want to be one of those. Speaking of indie comics, putting their own things out. You don't want to be somebody who is just playing around with the space behind you.
I mean, I would have used it, but like my buddy Rory Scovel, he would have made that the whole
Yeah,
show.
one hundred
But
percent.
I had this hour. I wanted the hour. I don't need. I didn't need to go goof around in the back of the stage. It'd take me off the eyes on the prize.
Yeah, Rory would have put a piano back there, like all the way deep in the back, and then he would have walked 20 minutes to
Rory's
get
not doing well. He'd live there if you'd let him. You have to throw him out of a theater. He will
Hey,
stay.
look, that's how it happens now. What
Let's start the
so
rumor Rory's living in theaters right now. He's been kicked out of his house and like he just tests the goodwill of theater for like people let him crash for a month and they're like, you got to go, dude. This is weird.
yeah, that's what that Babylon money does to him.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
What so when you were preparing for this hour, did you know coming up that this was going to be the thing, like the hour that you shoot?
So like, I have two kids. One of them's 5, one of them's 2.5 now. At the time of taping, the one was 3 and one was not even 1. So of course, father jokes, parenthood jokes are coming out of me. But at some point I was like, oh wow, I think I've got an hour that's about parenting. And then you start looking for connective thread. And then you start having this crisis if you're me being like, I don't want to be a dad comedian. I want it to be
Yeah.
funny. I don't want this to be like kids say the darndest thing. So it's like now it's got to meet my criteria of like, can anybody enjoy this? And does it all have the same sort of theme? And truthfully, once I started sort of having that eureka moment of like, oh, there's fatherhood and there's enough material and how do we connect it? It all came together really fluidly. It's funny how you just sort of vomit out what you're thinking about. And often it is thematic and you just have to find that connective thread. So once I started thinking that, I was like, oh, wow, I got the hour. And then I quickly reached out to 800 Pound and they were like, sweet, let's do it. And it came together pretty naturally.
Oh shit. So you reached out to them.
Well, I had done something with them the year before.
Okay.
During pandemic, I had an album called Hot Takes, which was like all political, like current shit. And they put it out and it was great. But they were like, if you ever want to do a special, let us know if it's ready, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I like reached out and said, I think it's ready. And then they agreed.
Wow. I wouldn't I would probably be someone that I don't do comedy stand up, but I think I would be somebody who would just jump the gun on that and go like way too soon when they're like, hey, you ready to go? I'd be like, yeah, let's do it right now. And they're like, oh, okay. Or when are you going to shoot next week? I'd be like, I guess.
Well, it's funny you were mentioning earlier people who do albums and stuff too early. Dude, embryonically, like maybe 2 years in, I did a special called Dick Jokes for Artists, which I still think is a brilliant name.
That's a great
I got to bring it. But I did it too quick. I want to bring that name back. I'll do volume 2 sometime. But like, I can't, I'm sitting in my garage office. There's 200 copies of the DVD of Dick Jokes for Artists over there. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to jump the gun. You learn over the course of your career. Hey, wait till you have something real good.
Yeah.
And let it bake a little bit and then bring it to them. And so I think that's just a maturity of like doing this for a while, sort of knowing that opportunity ain't going to go away. Just get the set ready.
What's in a name? Dick Jokes for Artists. I mean, that's hilarious.
It's a good one, right? Like, what I got to put out volume 2. I'm telling you.
What how do comics come up with names? Because I don't know if I could. David Cross had what bigger and blacker to take
it's
on.
So funny, it's so good.
So what like how does a name encapsulate everything that's in a special, like something like Wallpaper or any of the like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I feel like some are better than others. Like Jake Johansson had one called "This'll Take About an Hour." That's so great. That just couldn't be a better title. I had one like Adam Cayton-Holland performs his signature bits. That's funny to me.
Good. I like that one.
Yeah, some are better than others. Wallpaper I like because it's kind of thematically like when you're a dad, I have a joke about there's 4 members of my family and I'm the 4th most important person. And that's just like you become the wallpaper of your family. So that sort of just seemed like a good theme to do. But I don't know. Sometimes it hits you like Dick Jokes for Artists way too early and you got to bring it back 18 years later.
Yeah, you know what? 18 years is a good amount of time. I don't think people, and then like you could resell those DVDs
I'm telling you,
and
so if Wallpaper hits like I need it to hit, these DVDs are gonna be. And for anybody who held on to their DVD players, have I got a scorcher for you,
yeah, hey, look, I would be someone to buy it.
dude? I have like swooping emo bangs. It's so
Jesus Christ.
2006. It's just perfect. It's
It
great.
opens with a song that's interpolating My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, totally. Fallout Boy's just hanging out. They're like,
Yeah,
it's the coolest shit.
yeah, yeah. What's the music scene like in Denver?
It's pretty great, actually. There's a lot of bands lately that have popped big. Like,
Mm.
I'm not trying to name drop it here. I'm gonna name drop. I'm real good friends with like Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats dudes,
Oh shit. Okay, yeah,
and they're huge. They're
yeah.
selling out stadiums, and the drummer Pat and I we're bird watching buddies. We go bird watching. He tells me crazy stories about their wild. He's like, yeah, and then Paul Simon dropped in and did it. Like when I was kind of coming up, the
Wow.
knock on Denver was like it was sort of there's no we'd root for people that didn't deserve it. Like they'd be Denver famous, but not talented enough to make it on the
Mhm.
national scale. And I was always kind of a hater. I was like, look, I want Denver to succeed as well, but these people need to be as good on a national scale to
Yeah,
really pop. And lately, a number of bands have done that, like Night Sweats and Lumineers, and this band Tennis is really great.
I
And
know. Yeah.
yeah, they're cool. They're comedy. I'm friends with them as well. They're comedy nerds. So there's been a number of bands popping nationally that I just love because since I've been a kid, I've been like Denver on my shoulder, like ride or die for Denver. So any success for anyone from Denver is still small town enough to be like, yes, that's my dude. Like you always root for Denver people real hard.
What are the music venues like there? Are they, I'm in Atlanta, so we've got
Okay, sure.
any number. We've got the Variety Playhouse, which sometimes has plays, sometimes it's music. I saw Brandy Carlisle at the Fox Theater, the same place I saw Chicago the musical. And then there's also Beyonce was at Mercedes Benz. We got people playing at State Farm Arena all the time. How do
Right.
how do yours stack up?
Pretty well because Denver is the biggest city in a 6-8 state radius,
Mhm.
so as if you're a touring band, you always kind of had to tick off Denver on the way. So we have, Ball Arena, which is where the Nuggets play and bands
Yeah.
play there. But there's also Red Rocks, which is that big outdoor amphitheater that
Oh
every band
yeah.
wants to play. And so that's sort of a legendary spot.
Yeah.
And then we got all the small theaters. There's this great street called Colfax, which is just like, Playboy back in the day called it the wickedest street in America. And it's all these weird dive bars and motels, and it just goes forever from the mountains to Kansas.
Mhm.
And there's a number of little venues, and you can kind of watch a band play the Bluebird, a 300 seater. Then they go to the Ogden, an 800 seater. Then they just move down Colfax. So
Yeah.
if you're a fan of a band and you catch them on the rise, like I saw the White Stripes at the Bluebird, at the Ogden, at the Fillmore, onto Red Rocks, like because I just
Wow.
caught wind of them early. And you can sort of watch a band ascend through all the big venues of Denver.
I'm partial to we have a newer venue that's owned by the same people who do Variety called the Eastern. And it's great. I mean, it's in a neighborhood. I can bike there on our path. I can walk there, whatever. But it is, since it's so fairly new, it's just kind of got the sheen to it. And
Yeah.
everybody that's playing there is like, I saw, like, you can go see Kesha for like 25-30 dollars if you catch the right ticket price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I think that's so cool. Or you can see the Night Sweats there for the same amount of money, and it'll still be packed to the gills. And I love places like that. But
You
similarly,
you reminded me there's a
small.
place that just opened here like that called Mission Ballroom,
Okay.
which is like, state of the art, beautiful sound,
Yeah.
and they can float the stage. So if the band doesn't fill it out, they just move it halfway in, and it's that intimate experience. But yeah, I saw, Death Cab for Cutie just did their big Postal Service nostalgia tour. I went there.
Mhm.
I seen Wilco there. I saw Wu-Tang there, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's like 2,000 people, 3,000 people, and they don't jack the price up for the tickets. You just kind of got to get it if you can.
Yeah.
Those are I love that.
What do you prefer to see, smaller acts or bigger acts?
now I'm 43, dude. So like my learning of smaller acts is pretty limited. You know what I mean? I'm not as
Yeah,
like
yeah,
ear to the, and I got babies, so it's like ear to the ground is not like it used to be.
yeah,
Of course, I prefer a little act, but I don't have the radar or the time to develop that radar that I used to. So
yeah.
if a cooler friend is like, come with me to this thing, I'm like, got it. And I
Mhm.
go and do it. But me finding those gems on my own is I got too much Paw Patrol on the brain to figure that shit out right now.
Hey man, I understand. It's I like for me, like I'm 30, and so like, I'm kind of losing that edge of myself where everything I heard from, like I got tennis from NPR, All Songs
Uh-huh.
Considered. And it's like it's either if it's not on that, and if it's not on Sirius XM on any one of those 3,000 channels that are going through my
Exactly.
head, then I go, all right,
Exactly.
I missed it. This is not for me
Siri
anymore.
XMU, they give me the cool new stuff.
Yeah,
But it's funny, like you'll get there if you haven't got there already. But these bands that you saw when you were a teenager and just lived at the altar of, worshipped at the altar of, 20 years go by, and that album that you loved is now 20 years old.
yeah,
And they do the nostalgia, like, hey, we're celebrating the 20th year of this album.
yeah,
And you're like, yeah, you got my money as a teenager. You can have my money now. And so it's just kind of like you just get to ride the same stuff you were listening to as a kid
yeah,
again.
yeah.
And I'm having a ball doing that. I've seen a lot of anniversary shows, and
Yeah.
it's great.
I love an anniversary show. I also love it when you like New Kids on the Block teams up with four other bands from that time period, and they don't have all of their artists, or someone's sick and too old to move or something like that. That's definitely something I enjoy.
Danny's in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, but they're bringing him out and they're doing it. They're step by stepping.
When I saw Paul McCartney last year, and he went to Knoxville, and they that was when they introduced a John Lennon AI song, and
Oh,
I
right, right,
was
right.
so concerned. I didn't know how to feel about seeing that happen at the exact same time. And then later on, he Paul McCartney played Bluebird by himself. The stage rose like 20-30 feet in the air, and he was on this thing by himself. It was big, but very concerned to see a 79, 80-year-old man up there.
Dude, I saw Blink 182 this summer, and they had this rig where Travis Barker, the drummer, they just lifted it up with the drum set, and he's
Yeah.
hovering above everyone. And it was, I mean, maybe this happens every night, but it felt like it was tipping forward. You know what I mean? And it's just
Yeah.
like, this is a dude who's survived plane crashes and stuff. And I was like, good for you for being willing to be lifted above the other two every night. But they held on. The drums stayed. It was great.
He just played on a Peloton class, and
Dude,
it was pretty good.
Utah. I rode in that class.
You
I saw
did?
that one. Oh yeah, with Kendall. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm all about that Peloton.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I did two classes this morning. Every leg day I do two classes.
Dang.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like Mark Maron with Peloton and be like, hey, who are you guys? Who do you ride with?
okay, I got this. I got this.
Yeah.
I I have a lot of issues with Peloton, and I wish that they would kind of just focus on teaching a lot more. I feel like we're getting a lot of talking that's not
Yes.
focused on things, and I work out a shit ton. I
Yeah,
and
you're a
Peloton
boxer, dude.
is,
You take this seriously.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is my supplemental stuff, and I don't
Yeah.
want, but I understand people, not everybody is that way. But I do think that Matt Wilpers is just hands down the best they have. I mean,
Okay.
this guy can teach, he can do tread stuff, he can do bike stuff. We can have fun along with him telling me why my quads need this sprint, and like
Right.
that's important to me. On the other hand, I am fully in love with Kendall, and every woman I've dated in the past 3 years, going on four, has known that. So that's very important to me. Ben Aldis, Leanne Hainsby,
Sure.
Dennis Morton.
Sure.
Dennis for his music choices. He has really good
Dennis
music.
has good music and he knows his stuff. Like he did the Atlanta or Southern hip hop one,
Yeah.
and he knew like every song. I was like, all right, this dude knows his stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can talk about classic rock and hip hop in such a way, and like really not just like know the Wikipedia facts about it, we're cool.
That's funny.
Now, what
I,
about you? Who are the people you enjoy?
I've ridden everyone you talked about. Kendall, I like, although I wish Kendall needs to stop singing. She needs to stop. She'll sing and she'll be like doing a harmony that's different. It's like, what are you
Yeah,
trying to harmonize? Like, stop, Kendall. But I like her because she kicks my ass. I like different people than you. I like you. Like Wilper's definitely teaches. The rides I've done with him, I'm like, oh, I need to be pulling up versus pushing down. I'm thinking about like
yes,
cycling technique way more than usual. But I'm not looking for that necessarily. I'm just trying to sweat and burn some calories. So it's
yeah,
like
fair.
I like Cody Rigsby. He makes me laugh.
Cody's hilarious.
Cody's hilarious.
Yeah,
I like Alex Toussaint. And if I really like, I like Sam Yo. Sam Yo's got a
sounds great.
chill vibe, but he works you hard. Like I'm always surprised at my numbers at the end of
Mhm.
a Sam Yo ride. So
Yeah,
those are my peeps.
yeah, you and me both. It's I enjoy it. I love Peloton. I'm all in. I lost a lot of money in the stock, but you know what? We're gonna bounce back at some point.
I'm also just fast. It's just a hilarious world. Like they all have got their books coming out and they're
Yeah,
all stars in their own right and their own little
yeah.
brands. And it's just a funny, I don't know. It's a funny little microcosm of to study. I think it's hilarious.
Do you know Ali Love has she's on the Today Show as a contributor?
I did know that. I did.
Yeah.
I just learned that. Yeah.
Yeah. I work at a CNN and in the control room we have, all the TVs on and I will see on the Today Show during the our morning show, I'll see Ali Love up there hawking, whatever the health thing that she's covering or, doing a story. And I'll just think, I took you this morning and you miscounted when we were running or when we were cycling.
It is sort of dystopian in a way. It's like, here's the machine in your basement that you work out on. And these are the people we've decided you can look at and
Yeah.
now go follow them around society.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a little 1984, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, I mean, speaking of that, as a comedian, you have to have now what 20 different social accounts. You gotta
For sure.
all this stuff is so crazy to me. It's very hard, very difficult. I mean, like to point someone towards one place where TikTok is now the popular thing, but your website has all your tour dates, and then now you have to
Right.
put all your tour dates on Instagram, and you're
Right.
with that one link that they give you. I just it's tough for me. Like if I imagine like if I was a comedian, I would be, it's already hard enough to clip out something from an interview like this and then put 30 to 60 seconds on TikTok. So I can
Yeah.
only imagine doing that for literally everything.
It's a little weird. And I like, truthfully, I feel like I'm in like the second stage of my career. Like the first part of my career, the goalposts were different. It was like I wanted to be a new face in Montreal. I wanted to do Conan. I wanted to get a Comedy Central half hour. I had a TV show. All these things were like the traditional success metrics. And then in the last like 5 years or so, social media has really been like, who cares? What are your views? How are you? Blah, blah, blah. What is the numbers? And then so it's like, it took me a while to stop being an old man yelling on my lawn, like it used to be different. What is this TikTok? And just being like, you're going to get lapped, dude. So play the game a little bit. So I do it as much as I can. Like I have a TikTok and it's doing pretty well. I don't know how to access it. I don't have it on my phone.
Yeah.
I pay someone to post clips for me. And fortunately, I in a position where I can, not a ton, but just enough that I don't have to deal with it.
100%.
So the one thing I want to be like playing the game, but on the other thing, I'm a dad, dude. And I don't want to be like, sorry, boys, dad's filming his talking head video and trying to get the right text on it. Like it's sort of a pathetic look for a 43-year-old dude. So it's just, I'm trying to balance while also trying to put out real good stuff. You know what I mean? So it's, you can either yell at it and be passed by, or you can dabble with whatever level you're comfortable. And I'm trying to do that.
Yeah. I see that with a lot of comedians, you are very lucky, very fortunate to be able to go I'm going to pay somebody else to do this because I just can't. Like it would break my heart to be, a great comedian and then also not pay attention to even Instagram reels at this point.
Right. I'm fortunate, man. I've lived a creative life and it's provided for my family and it continues to do so. So like Do I want super mega fame? Yeah, it'd be amazing. I'd love to play stadiums like my dear friends that are playing stadiums.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of, I'm to the point just philosophically where I'm quite grateful to be living a creative life. I feel like I've kind of cheated society and it's working. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to operate from that place while putting out good shit and hoping more and more people come in, and it's working. It's past years sort of seen this growth that I'm like, okay, this is great. So I'm really excited for this special to come out and see more people to see stuff,
Yeah. I think the level of fame to aim for any comedian would be yes, the Kevin Hart, the selling out stadiums would be great, but the Mark Maron like fame just a little bit under that, because he said something very funny about that Netflix guy Matt Rife. He said, or he was talking about handsome comedians who don't really have jokes, and then he caught himself. He said, "Oh shit, it's going to be on the internet, isn't it?" Because he was just at having a conversation. But I think right below that, because he also I watched Genie last night and he was in it, and I didn't know, on Peacock starring Melissa McCarthy, and I was like,
yeah.
this is good for him. Like
He
that's
gets a
exactly
lot
what
of
I want
cool
to be.
roles. Maron's one of my absolute favorites. We're friendly, and
Okay.
I love watching that dude work. He inspires the hell out of me. And I think he had he went and started that podcast because he was
Mhm.
done with comedy. He's
Yeah.
like, I can't, I'm broken and can't do this anymore. So he went to the garage and started a podcast, and it did a lot of things for him. But I understand where he's coming from, where it's kind of like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like, I don't know what I'm cranking it out. I can't pop. Like, fuck it. I'm going to my garage and starting a podcast. I get that for sure. And guys like Marin and Gary Goldman and Dana Gould and these guys that are like in their 50s and beyond
Mhm.
and continuing to get better and better and more profound. Like, I love that about comedy. It's, even though we're living in this clip age of bullshit, you still, these masters are having hours into their 50s, 60s, 70s. And I don't know any other really, music's not allowing for that unless you're the Rolling Stones or
Yeah.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So I like seeing that, and it inspires me and always makes me want to be better.
And you know what also comes with that is like writing books. Marin has what, 3 or 4 books. Gary Goldman just put out a book. I would love to see, I like to see what comics can work with on the page.
Totally. Yeah. I put out a book, and I agree. I'm a writer as well. And I think it's weird. Comedy is the guys like that, these high intellects, this profound philosophical stuff, and also the dumbest shit ever. And you can
100%.
sort of get mad, like, why is the dumbest shit so popular? And that's not so popular. But my friend Jonah Ray, who's a comedian
Yeah, I know
and a
Jonah.
great guy, I'll bitch and moan about this and that in comedy, as any comic does with their
Mhm.
buddies when you start getting together. And Jonah's just like, it's just like music, dude. It's like these dudes play arena cock rock and you're an indie rocker. So
Yeah.
stop comparing yourself to those dudes. You don't do that thing. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, there's just genres of comedy and styles of comedy, and society sort of deems some better than others or more popular, but whatever. You just play your music and find your audience.
Yeah. Speaking of guys that know music like crazy, that Jonah Ray is just, I couldn't, because he has a music podcast too, right?
I think it doesn't do it anymore, but he knows
Okay.
everything. Like,
Yeah.
we're pretty good friends. And anytime in LA, I was like, you want to go to the record store? And I'll just be like, what should I get? And he's like, here's 3. And they're the best records I've, bought that year. He knows his shit for sure.
How big is your collection?
Of records,
Yeah.
not huge, probably a couple hundred.
Jesus Christ. Not you'd probably go 100. It's insane. I mean, there's a bookcase back there that has all of my Blu-rays and my TV shows, and there's got a couple of hundred, including the digital stuff too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you for holding on to that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
don't know.
single man.
Yeah. Anytime you go traveling, you go to a record store, it's typically in a cool area. There's a cool bookstore, there's a cool coffee shop. So it's like, that's kind of my hack traveling, is where's a cool record store? And inevitably it's in a cool neighborhood you want to be walking around anyway. So
Yeah.
I tend to collect when I'm on the road.
Hey, look, the more power to you. I like people holding on to physical things.
I agree. yeah, too much stuff is like it's supposed to, you can get it anytime, and then you're trying to find the movie or the TV show. And it's like, well, I can't. It's not streaming anymore, or
Yeah,
it costs $5 to rent every time. It's not a
yeah,
perfect system yet.
might as well. Well, Adam, thank you for your time. It's Wallpaper, and then the the video will be out December 8th, and then it'll stream everywhere January 18th, right?
Exactly. It's like for purchase December 8th, and then everywhere for free January 18th. That's
Okay,
exactly right. Yeah.
that's awesome. 12 days away from that holiday that everybody's celebrating.
So
Uh,
get your friend or loved one a copy of Wallpaper digitally, and who knows how long it'll be up there.
oh, Jesus Christ, exactly. That's the scariest part. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me. I appreciate it. And I
Yeah.
hope we can do this again for the next release too.
Hell yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You have a good rest of your week.
All right. You too.
All right, see ya.